In this video, I'm going to explain to you the leashes that you actually need when you decide you want to get into serious dog business. Because you know that like Diamante covered leash that you have that's probably got like 15 different buckles on it. You bought it off Etsy, it's stitched together with a hope and a prayer, and you often try and train with it with like 4 different knots within that thing. That thing's a piece of shit. And if you can believe it, it's actually holding your training back. Hello, if we haven't met, my name's Pat Stewart. I'm a dog trainer. I've been at this professionally since I left the army over a decade ago. I work in, dogs going into people's homes, doing in-home behavior mod type stuff, all the way up to special forces military working dogs. But my true skill set, what I'm best at, is helping onboard people who have decided they want to take dog training really seriously. The people who have gotten into this, they've got their pet, whatever, and they've decided, hey, I really love this. I want to understand it. I want to take it seriously. This video is for you because today we're going to talk about the leashes that you actually need, not the junk that I see people constantly using. Now, to be clear and to be fair, do you want, buy cool stuff? I'm definitely not telling anybody don't buy cool leashes and things, make your dog look pretty, buy the colorful stuff. If that's what you're into, go for it. But what I want you to understand is that the way that you are going to communicate with the dog the most is via the leash. And so using the appropriate leash that is designed to do the thing that you want to achieve in that session is going to make dog training way easier. Let's go all the way to the start and talk about this, which kind of falls into 2 categories. It's a collar, but it also counts as a leash. It's just a little slip collar. This is something that you're gonna need. This is a piece of gear that you've absolutely got to have in your toolbox. There's a lot of different training that can be done with this, but it's the kind of thing that we want to be able to attach a leash to and turn it into a slip leash if we need to, but also have on the dog for teaching various exercises. And if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments. I can show you some of the things that we actually teach with this and why a dog would use it. The next one then is just your traditional slip leash. Now, what I want to tell you as well is almost all of the leashes that I'm going to show you today, except for the last 2, I get from a guy called Jason Furman. His company is Ironswick Dog Quip. Now, it's not sponsored by him. I think I paid for most of this stuff. I steal a lot of shit from him as well, so maybe I stole this stuff. But Jason is the guy who makes all my leashes because he makes the leashes to spec. And so I recommend that you find a dog trainer person in your area. If you're in Australia, Jason's your guy. It's Ironswick Dog Quip. Not sponsored, but he's a friend and he makes the best gear. All this stuff is made by him, and it's real dog training gear made by real dog trainers for dog trainers that actually understand how things go down. So he made me this. This is a slip leash. This is how long I want a slip leash to be. I just want it I don't know, from the floor to my chest, something like that. And I need a stopper. You want that so that it can't get too tight around the dog's neck. And you also want a stopper here so it can't just become a disaster and get completely undone and fall off the dog's neck. A slip leash is the kind of leash that we use to train some behaviors. For sure, we use it to train some behaviors, but overwhelmingly, this is what I'm gonna put on my dog when I just gotta move him from one place to another real quick. With my own dogs, when I walk around the neighborhood, they walk around on slip leashes. That's the easiest way to just whack it over their head, off we go. I can communicate with them via this leash. It's not a leash that I use to train a lot of behaviors with, but when the dog knows the behaviors, I can use it to hold them accountable, blah, blah, blah. Slip leash is definitely something you're gonna need. Get a very basic one. I like these ones that are cord. I don't know how well that's gonna show up. Maybe I'll cover my eyes and it'll see better, yeah. I really like these slip leash. Okay. Onto real leashes you're going to attach to stuff. So all of these are leashes that will get attached to a collar, and as real dog trainers we know that there could be lots of different collars that could be on a dog at any one moment, and there could be multiple collars on a dog at any one moment. So what this little tab, the function that plays for me in my training is this would go on to my dog's prong collar when he's wearing one in the session, but I don't think it's likely that I'm going to use that prong collar. So it's I'm not using that in the moment to teach something, but if I need to give him a correction, or if I need to help guide him into understanding something that he hasn't figured out in that session, whatever, I have this attached to the prong, so it's just dangling around. I can't get any real distance from my dog doing this, so it's really only for close by things, very, very close by. But I like it because it's so short, it's not gonna get caught up on anything. My dog's not gonna step on it and give himself an accidental correction at any moment that he could misunderstand and think he's on the wrong path just because he stepped on his own leash. So I love having one of these. This is something that always is in my kit bag, just a little tab, we call this, right? I don't want this ever to be more than 30 centimeters long, no longer than a foot. Okay, so we got that. Our next one we go is like a 3-foot leash or a 1 meter leash. Again, look at the hardware on this thing, right? I've got to get real close. We want that to be just a normal buckle. I don't want any of the fancy push it on, like I just want the normal buckle. I want brass or steel, something strong enough that it's going to work within holding a dog that's really trying to get away from it. And I like my leashes made from this tape stuff that Jason makes them from. Now he's got a variety of different materials that he makes these from. Let me hold it there. Yeah, he's got a variety of different materials he makes them from. There's pros and cons. This grippy tape stuff I like because it makes it really easy to handle the leash, but the con of that is that it can burn you pretty good if it pulls through your hand. It'll burn you really easily. So that's a choose your own adventure. You choose the texture of the leash that you like. I like the webbing kind of stuff because I find that there's more tactile feedback down the line with this. And the point of this 3-foot or 1 meter leash is this is how I'm going to communicate with a dog via a collar. So if I'm going to teach a dog something and I'm going to be use any kind of like pressure and release, whether that is a slip lead, a prong collar, flat collar, whatever, this is the leash that I'm very likely to want to communicate with my dog the most. It gives me enough range to get far enough from the dog that he's out doing other things, but it's not so much that there's any chance that I'm going to get tangled in this as we're playing or moving around together. And similarly, when my dog's in a heel position, it's enough leash that I can demonstrate a real clear J and show that like my dog's not pulling on the leash. I don't have, I'm not giving tactile feedback. And so this is the kind of thing that I would trial in as well. Usually at dog sports trials, we say it's a 3 to 6 foot leash. Certainly in my game that I play, PSA, that's what it is. And so this is the ultimate kind of leash that we're going to put on to trial a dog because we're not really using that leash, right? It's just that you have to have a leash on. So this is the one that my dog is used to me communicating with him all the time with, right? When I'm teaching him stuff, he's looking for feedback via this. This is the one we're going to go into trial with. These are really good too because usually in trials, when we have to take off a leash, we have to stow it somewhere. These are really easy just to go around your waist, right? Fits around your waist really easily. It's tucked out of the way. There's nothing dangling. No judge is going to get upset about you with that. 3-foot leash, I really like these. Now, before I keep going, the colors of my leashes, I'm not a person that cares about the color of my stuff. Who probably knows I wear the same black t-shirt every day, right? But the colors of the leashes that I have are specific when we talk about this one, my 3-foot, my next one, my 6-foot, and then the next one, my like 15-foot. I have them these colors, and people who train with me, I encourage them to get the same colors just so that in a moment we can look at the dog and who may have multiple leashes on, because when we're doing real dog training, there's often times where we're going to use multiple leashes. We're going to have people on back lines. We're going to have people working the actual leash that they're communicating with the dog with. Your decoy, if you're doing protection sports, might be holding a leash forward. It is not uncommon to have 3 or more leashes on a dog at any one time when you are doing really high level dog training. And if you want to learn that kind of dog training, jump into the description below. There'll be a link. You can jump into a group and learn all about that stuff from me if you're interested. But right now we're just talking about leashes. So the colors, I like them to be in those same colors because the people I train with, then I can say, grab the red leash, grab the green leash, whatever. I don't need to be saying to my decoy who has got a million things going on and is juggling, holding his can curtain and clatter stick. And now I need him to help me train with the dog. When I'm saying get the short leash, I don't need him trying to figure out which is the short one. I want to be able to tell him the color so that he can just grab that one and help me with the training. Enough on the colors. So our next leash is our 6-foot leash. And this is just our normal sort of leash. This one I want a handle on. So this is the first time we're talking about the necessity of a handle. The slip leash can have a handle if you want, but this one I definitely want, right? And this is just my normal 6-foot leash. Same kind of buckle. I just want it to be like a normal brass buckle that's sewn in and he puts like a shrink wrap over that to keep it flat and clean. But this is the kind of leash that I think of as an anchor point. So if I just need to restrain a dog, hold a dog back, if I'm doing a type of training where I'm communicating with this leash, right? But I need an anchor point. My communication would be being done here via the training collar, and this is how I'd be holding the dog via the flat collar. The other time I'll be using this is if you're getting into protection sports, which you should because they're cool as fuck. This is the kind of leash that we're going to post up on, right? When we're doing protection work, we've got enough space here to get a little bit far from the dog and hold, but then we can also come in nice and tight. We've got room to play. I like having a handle on this one because in a pinch, like in the real world, I can turn that into a slip leash and put it over something if I need to restrain a dog. But similarly, I like the handle because this is where I'm going to be posting. So I want to be able to create that hard anchor point. This kind of leash I will use when I'm actually training, like in early phases when I'm still getting a lot of distance from a dog. Like when I'm trying to teach a dog at spicy games of negative reinforcement, which is like adds the turbo to all dog training. And again, that's something I can teach you how to do. Jump into the description below, jump into the link. You'll be able to find a heap of information about how to train to a really high level using spicy games of negative reinforcement and leashes like this. So this 6-foot leash, the other thing I want to say about it, see how there's no bullshit going on this. Let me prove that to you. Buckle, and it goes all the way through. It's just leash. It's just leash. It's still just leash. There's nothing crazy going on, and we're at the end, there's a handle and there's nothing else. You don't want a bunch of like clips and buckles and shit along that leash because whilst we're trying to communicate with the dog, all that stuff is just in the way. And when you learn to take dog training really seriously and get a dog to a really high level, you will understand that so much of the communication between you and the dog is happening via the leash. So I want a very simple system. I don't want stuff that's going to be confusing the dog. I don't want stuff that takes away the like ability for me to be really tactile as I communicate with the dog. To that end, that's why I don't love leather leashes. The big con of leather leashes is they eventually snap, right? And people will say, oh, but you gotta look after them. And yep, like for sure you do. And if you do that properly, a leather leash could last a whole lifetime. But most people don't, right? Most people who come to train with me can't even keep knots out of their leashes, which by the way, I was looking up the ChatGPT references so I could give you the real references and I can't be bothered. Let me just tell you that every time you tie a knot into webbing, you reduce its breaking strain by half, right? Now, I don't know what this, it's probably something similar with leather. But I don't love leather leashes just because they're not as tactile. Some people do love them, and some really good dog trainers that I know say that they're more tactile. It's just maybe what they're used to. But for me, I like tape, not leather. Nothing going on the leash. We don't even want like a buckle on the back end of this. Some of the like serious dog training ones, like the 4 Dog Trainers one, has a buckle on the end of the leash here, which seems like a great idea because then you can like clip your harness to it and or your thing to it and put it over your waist or whatever. The problem with that is in certain work, you're going to let go of that leash while the dog is running, and then you've got this piece of metal flippy flapping all over the place. And trust me, I'll put the picture up here to show you. You can get hit with that thing. This is me. I had it. This was during a courage test. Dog dropped its handler dropped the line. Dog came running in, and as it just bounced incorrectly, the buckle at the back end of the leash flipped up, hit me in the eye, and that's the result of it. So that's why I don't want any bullshit all over the leash. That's one of the reasons I don't want any of the bullshit all over the leash. Okay, moving on. The next leash that you're going to want is this one is a 15-foot leash. So I store these like this so that they're really easy. When I need it, it just turns into a really long leash. And this is what we're calling like our long line, but it's our kind of mid-long line. Exact same type of buckle, right? Exact same webbing. This is where things do get a little bit dodgy with this kind of webbing because, let me show you to this camera over here. If that rubs against your leg, which like long lines do that shit, right? Like you've got it spooled up on the ground and it zooms across your leg, that can burn you real good, right? So you got to be careful. I kind of accept that. And the other thing is like a long line, when you're using this, is often going to run through your fingers. This is the kind of thing that you're going to hold for someone else to have a back line on their dog to restrict them. But then when it's time for their dog to go, they give you the nod or you read the situation, you let it go. There's going to be a bit of a run through your fingers. I kind of accept that risk with this because I mostly wear gloves when I'm training. If I'm not, then I will admit, there is times where I don't want that. And so I have another one that's over here, which is the same length, it's the same thing, it's just made of a different material. It's like a different type of webbing. Can I get in focus? There. It's a different type of webbing that is kind of softer and nicer, but doesn't have the grippy stuff in it. So horses for courses, right? I'll use different ones at different times, and this is just the exact same length, performs the exact same function for me, but it doesn't have the same gripper stuff. Wasn't available in the red color to match my color scheme of the long line being the red one. When we're going to use this kind of line, this is the kind of line that we're going to drag behind a dog, right? So if you're in a reasonably confined space, you're doing some training, this is the kind of thing that I'm just going to have my dog on, click to the flat collar or whatever. And when I'm doing my training, if the dog disengages or runs off after something else, I can catch the dog and stay a hold. When we're doing backline type work, once you get into serious training, it's not uncommon that somebody else has an anchor point like line behind you so that they're all the way back there, and that's the kind of line that we would use for that. This is also the sort of thing that a lot of people would use in their detection type training or tracking even, where you want to be able to get a decent ways from the dog, let the dog work and search independently, but also be able to give tactile feedback and control along the way if need be. And this sort of represents about the right distance. Like most people, if you're doing detection stuff, you're not going to get a full 10 meters or 30 feet from the dog. A 15-foot line like this one is going to give you enough distance away from the dog, but you can still control it. Okay. Now, everything to this point has been stuff that Jason has made for me, Ironswick Dog Quip, if you want to check it out. Again, not sponsored, and I think I paid for some of this stuff, and I probably stole some of the other stuff from him. That's where I like to get my leashes. Now we're into the different kind of leashes that I like, is my real long lines, like my 10-meter lines. Check out the buckle on this one. Similar, like high quality, but steel buckle. Good stitching on that, it's not coming off, because this is a horse lunging line. So I don't love any of the dog ones, and I think that by the time we're getting to this long a line, 10 meters, I don't want this grippy material at that point. Like this is always going to get tangled around stuff and be a pain. This is always going to happen with this kind of line. So I really like these horse ones that I get from a place called Horse World. And it's just a nice soft material. Comes in a variety of different colors. Now the colors being important because if you're using 2 of these at a time, I want different colored ones so that I can see what's going on, see any tangles, see the angles that they should be at, and know like that guy's holding the orange one, it should be attached to that point, blah, 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 all right? So your really long line, like your 10 meter, gonna get a decent ways from the dog, or one that the dog is gonna drag around, I like these. The 10 meter line, like your really long line, is the only time I would fuck with that Brammer web stuff or the synthetic leather kind of stuff. Now, I hate that on a leash. It's no good as a leash because it doesn't give you any kind of tactile feedback down the line, right? Like it holds shape too much. It's no good for communicating with a dog, in my opinion, the way that I want to communicate with a dog. You do you, whatever, right? But when you're using a really long line, often it's going to be getting dragged around. It can be damaged pretty easily. That Brammer web stuff is really good. And so if you just need an anchor point, that's when I would consider like, yeah, okay, one of those in a long line is probably not a bad idea. And they'll also last forever. And so your long line, for sure, you're going to be using this like as a drag line. It's going to be dragging through the wet mud, blah, blah, blah. Having that made out of the most durable thing you can think of is probably a good idea, right? But for me, I like these horse lunge lines. They do the job for me, and they're cheap, right? Like, don't be spending a fortune on this. These are like $30 here. It's not a big deal. Okay. Then the last one, hang on to your fucking knickers because this is what gets the like fake dog people big upset, is the Flexi leash. Now, I only fuck with the giant Flexi leash, right? The big bad boy, the 10-meter one. This one's brand new. I love them. The Flexi leashes are awesome, and it blew my mind a little bit because when I started in dogs, the people that were educating me were very pro Flex, and we used them all the time. And then when I sort of got into the civilian dog space and saw people losing their minds about the use of Flexis, I was like, no, the Flexi is the ultimate leash. So the Flexi goes on your dog to give the illusion of freedom. So for the most part, what I use a Flexi for outside of training is if I'm traveling with my dog, which I do all the time, when I get him out at a truck stop or whatever to toilet him, I just whack the Flexi on. So I don't have to be managing this line in and out. Like you imagine, like when you're using a long line, anybody that's used it and you actually need to be able to communicate with the dog at a moment's notice to call it back, you're constantly doing these ones, right? You constantly reel it in, reel it out, because you need to be able to communicate with the dog. This end piece is then all over the fucking place, and you're trying to, fuck all that. When I can just have like, hey man, clip to your collar, my dog can run around. If he gets into trouble, I can be like, hey man, you can't go there, right? And then when he starts running around, it moves by itself. I can always then just hit the button and go, hey man, you can't go there. Like, for sure, let's not, as dog trainers, be putting these on our clients and telling them that this is how they should walk their dog to the park at 10 meters of extension, that it can then flip around and go straight onto the road and arc them in. I get it, it's problematic. And similarly, like that runs across your leg, that's gonna fuck you up. I get it, but don't use it that way. We, as real trainers, mostly what I use is this is when I want my dog to feel like he's free, because he is. But I also know he's a lunatic that will get himself into trouble, so I need to be able to stop him and not have him go and get into trouble, right, when it's time. Similarly, there's times when the Flexi leash is the better long line because it retracts itself. So there's times where I need to be able to use a long line for that exact purpose of being able to stop the dog at a particular place and time in the session. And that, you know, there's many reasons why I might need to do that. I can probably put a clip of me doing it from some way on the screen now. But I need to be able to do that one-handed and in an instant. And Flexi is the only way you can do that. The other way you're going to see people use Flexis is Flexis are really good in detection type stuff. Where you'll see Flexis get used in like a police and military context would be like a roadside search. So I need to search a vehicle on the side of the road. I don't want my dog being able to get into the road and cause troubles, but I also need to maintain positive control of my dog while maintaining a free hand instead of like completely just controlling the leash. Flexi is a perfect tool for that. So the Flexi is a really wonderful tool. We use it all the time, but we use it for what it's meant to be used for. I would only get the big bad boy here and maybe like the 5 meter one that is similarly still taped if you've got a small or a young dog. That's what I'd use on puppies. So that's it for real leashes. And this is the thing, so like, I don't know what Jason charges these days, but it's nothing compared to having all that fancy bullshit, because a lot of the cost of leashes, like you imagine with this leash, all he's got to do is cut the leash. So there's material costs, right? He's got to cut it. He sews a handle and then he sews the buckle on, shrink rapes that really quick. But then if they've got to put out the hardware costs add up the cost. Then there's all the sewing them on and all that bullshit. So much of the costs of the leashes that people are buying are because of all the extraneous shit that goes onto that leash, which actually inhabits the way that you train the dog. So buy the cool stuff, like for sure, support the people making the cool things that make your dog look fancy. And in those moments where you want to walk down the street with your dog with the Diamante collar and shit on, go crazy, do that. But don't kid yourself into thinking those are necessary for dog training. Real dog training relies on us knowing how to use a slip leash / collar. We want our slip leash that we're going to use to apply pressure and release, but mostly this is how we just move a dog around when we need to in short order. We want our tab that attaches to some kind of training collar, gives us the ability to communicate with a dog in a pinch when we need to. We've got our 3-foot leash, our main communication collar, the one that we're going to go into competition with, the one that we're going to influence behavior with overwhelmingly the most. Our 6-foot leash, which is our anchor point. This is the one that we're going to restrain the dog with the most. It has a handle so that in a pinch, we can create a slip leash from it if we need to do that, but we can put that around an anchor point or whatever. Our 15-foot, our back line, our long control, our give the dog some space but still be able to control it. Our giant 10-meter one where we can really create space from the dog but again be able to control it. This is the kind of one that's going to get all tangled and be a disaster on the floor. Don't let knots get into that thing. And our Flexi leash. Don't let people tell you Flexi leashes suck. All right? That's it from me. If you want to learn more from me, jump into the description below. There's only a couple links. You can see some more of me or you can learn from me. I really like teaching this stuff, or you can stick around. There'll be another video on the screen somewhere you can watch. Jason stuff, Ironswick Dog Quip. There'll be a link in the description. All right, that's it. Ciao.